Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Welcome back to Understanding Culture, Society, and Politics. In this lesson, we will be talking about the consequence of socialization and becoming a member of society. If you found this video informative, please do not forget to click the subscribe and like button. Also, if you have questions or kind words to say, please leave it on the comment section below. Thank you. The main objective in this lesson is for the learner to explain the context, content, processes and consequences of socialization. Important concepts of socialization. It is He who made the earth tame for you, so walk among its slopes and eat of His provision, and to Him is the resurrection. The Noble Quran, Surah Al-Mulk, Chapter 67, Verse 15. It is a source of reminder for mankind of a great reality. Mankind should fully benefit from all its treasures and facilities, but should always keep in mind that these privileges will be followed by a day of accountability before the Almighty Allah. So, always be mindful and be a good member of the society. This also entails the development of individual behavior, positive interaction between individuals, and creation of individual awareness of social life. That is, to prepare the individual to meet the requirements of this life as commanded by his Lord. Before we delve on to becoming a member of society, let us define what is a society first. A society is a group of individuals with persistent social interaction. Individuals within a society constantly interacts with each other and share the same social territory, typically under the same political authority and dominant cultural beliefs. A society's values and norms are passed on to or acquired by its members through socialization or enculturation. Becoming a member of society is attained through socialization. Socialization is a lifelong process of inculcating values, norms, and customs of a society to the members, especially the new ones. There are three major aspects of socialization. These are context, content and processes and results or outcomes. Main goals of socialization. By default, human beings do interact with other people. Even the most introverted person still interacts with somebody in the course of his or her life. Socialization is a vital part of humanity. One of the main purpose of socialization is to sustain a group. By educating a new member of their norms, customs and practices, they have acquired a new member and thus lengthens the existence of that group. Socialization also teaches an individual to control his or her impulse and develop a conscience. For example, a child is taught to be patient and to not easily get angry when a conflict arises in school. Furthermore, socialization teaches individuals how to prepare and perform certain social roles such as occupational roles, gender roles, institutional roles, and others. For example, as a child, a little girl is usually given with domestic toys such as dolls or dollhouses for them to play with. But, it also teaches them that, as a girl, she is expected to learn skills such as sewing a dress, household chores and raising a child. Socialization also educates people on learning and identifying what is important and valued within a specific culture. For example, as a Filipino, we are taught to value traditions, religious beliefs and to honor our family. Moreover, socialization instills to the members of society what behavior are expected of them, especially in a social setting or public places. Socialization can be a form of social control as well. Behaviors such as using the toilet instead of leaving oneself anywhere, or wearing presentable clothes in public, or using proper utensils when eating out are a few examples of this. Two stages of when socialization occurs. The first stage is the primary socialization. This starts from birth up to adolescence. The process begins at home then continues at school. The frontrunners of social contact with a newborn child is of course the parents, caregivers, siblings, and other family members. As the baby grows older and starts going to school, he or she will have to interact with peers, teachers, coaches, and other persons that can be seen in a school. The next stage is the secondary socialization. This happens from adolescence continuing throughout an individual's life. This usually starts at college, when an individual encounters things that are new and separate from the norms and traditions learned within the immediate family. Some examples are joining a club or an organization in college, getting employed in a new workplace, traveling to a different country and adapting to the culture, traditions and norms of that country, and many others. Aside from the two stages of socialization, there are other forms of socialization as well. Adult socialization occurs when an individual enters a new group or encounters a different social group whose customs and norms differ from their own. As an adult, we encounter various people with different ethnicity, race, or nationalities that we need to know how to relate and deal with them. Group socialization occurs in an individual's entire life. A group usually influences one's personality, principles, dress code and other aspects of her individuality. For example, when an individual either joins a fraternity or sorority in college or needs to adapt to the traditions and customs of the group, he or she will be influenced by his or her brothers or sisters within the group, and may even speak, act or dress the same way as the other members of their group. Organizational socialization occurs within an institution or an organization. For example, new employees need to be oriented on the common culture, procedures and norms within a workplace. Especially happens when an individual enters a different institution or organization, with different work ethics and culture that needs to be followed. Forced socialization occurs in institutions that dictates and coerces an individual to conform and abide by norms, manners, values and customs of the institution. This usually happens in military, prison, psychiatric institutions, and other institutions of the same nature. For example, in a prison, the inmates have to follow a very strict schedule imposed by the warden and the guards within the facility. They cannot even go to the toilet at their own will or eat at their own time. If they break the schedule, they are warned or punished. The three-part process of socialization. Socialization is composed of the context, content and process and the results consequences of socialization. Context is the circumstance with which socialization occurs. It denotes culture, language, social structures, and the individual's rank within them. It also includes the history and roles played by people and institutions in the past. Content and process, on the other hand, is the work or activities involved in socialization. Specifically, content is the details of what is passed from a member to a new member. For example, a child is taught of proper etiquette in the dining table, house chores and responsibilities, and traditions or customs of their specific cultural group. The process is the actual activities done by the parent in order for the child to learn and apply these new knowledge. Process are the interactions and ways these new norms, values, and customs are taught to a novice or new member. Results, outcomes or consequence of socialization. This refers to what happens to an individual after being exposed to particular contents and processes. For example, through social media, the girls of this generation have come to believe that a well-defined eyebrows enhances their beauty. This has become an essential trait for most women nowadays, that they pluck, color, and even tattoo their eyebrows to achieve that perfect shape and fullness. Context of socialization. There are different contexts with which socialization occurs to us human beings. The first one is the biological context. Human beings seek connection with other human beings even before we are born into this world. Humans have innate tendency to cooperate and coordinate with other people. According to scientific studies, our body releases hormones, such as vasopressin and oxytocin, that encourages human to interact and socialize with other people. As we grow and become adults, most of our achievements, may it be personal or professional, are largely motivated by the need to be recognized or acknowledged by other people. Psychological context. The human mind is such a mystery and it is very fascinating how our brains work and function. There are various aspects within the psychological context. Emotional states and the unconscious. An individual's need for interaction or socialization also depends on his or her psychological state. Emotions such as fear, anger, sadness, grief, happiness, anxiety, and others pushes a person to interact with other people. For example, if you are angry, you usually vent or rant to a friend or your circle of friends. After sharing what makes you angry, you will have felt relieved and less angry anymore. Emotional states can also influence the perception of a person towards the content of a socialization. For example, if you have issues with a family member, you will be less inclined to socialize with that member. Or, if you lost a loved one, hearing the priest's sermon during the funeral seems unbearable. Cognitive theories of development. There are different theories on the cognitive or intellectual development of humans. This denotes that the cognition and intellectual development of an individual also influences his or her socialization. For example, intelligent people aren't usually keen to have small talk or talk about people or trivial things. They prefer talking about ideas, philosophy or hypothetical problems of life. They would not, therefore, usually socialize with people who speak of mere rumors or gossips. Some of the things that we learn may also be derived from the people we socialize with or those people who try to socialize with us. For example, if we keep on socializing with people who loves watching documentary or historical films, then we will be most likely bombarded with all sorts of information whenever we interact with them. Social and historical events in our lives that may have affected us psychologically. For example, some people do not trust or befriend a specific type of person, because that person reminds him or her of a traumatic past. Another example is, if a little girl was beaten or abused by her father, then she would have a hard time trusting men in general, and will not socialize with them that often. Also, major social and historical events may influence the socialization of an entire generation. For example, people who have experienced hardships and suffered deprivation may have different motivation in achieving their goals rather than mere recognition from the society. Also, they tend to value family and marriage more instead of attaining social status or career enhancements. Social position as part of the context. Our position in the family, our family's social class, economic position, ethnic background, and even our gender, affects our social interaction with other people. For example, if an individual's family is poor, then he or she will have a hard time getting into a group of people who came from the upper class or wealthy families. Also, there is a norm that girls should befriend girls and avoid hanging out with a bunch of boys. However, due to modernization, interactions between different genders have become less strict. However, in Islam, mixing between non-related, opposite genders are still prohibited and avoided as much as possible. Political structures may also be an outcome of socialization practices. Some people in politics or with political power belongs to families who are well known and have socialized with other families of the same level. Another example is during the leadership of aristocracy. Only the people who belong to the elite, wealthy and noble families can be a part of the aristocracy which leads a country. Even if a commoner have better ideas or suggestions, he will not be heard since he does not belong to the aristocracy, and did not even have the opportunity to socialize with them. Socialization is also known as enculturation. According to the definition in Merriam-Webster Dictionary, enculturation is the process by which an individual learns the traditional content of a culture and assimilates its practices and values. Values, norms, status, and roles. Values are culturally defined standards that people use to decide what is desirable, good, and beautiful and that serve as broad guidelines for social living. For example, in the Philippines, regardless of our specific religious affiliation, it is expected of us to adhere to the beliefs of that religion. Another example is the loyalty to the family. Filipinos are usually family-oriented and, eldest children are expected to help the parents in raising the younger siblings, especially among families with huge number of children. Norms. are rules and expectations by which a society guides the behavior of its members. There are different norms that we follow every day. The mere fact that we do not go outside our house wearing only undergarments is a norm we have followed for a long time. Not picking our nose in public, waiting for our turn in a line, greetings and being polite to public workers, following traffic rules, and even sending our kids to school is part of the norms of the society. Status refers to a social position that a person holds. There are two types of status. Ascribed status is a social position a person receives at birth or takes on involuntarily later in life. For example, being a daughter, and then later on becoming an aunt or a mother. Another example is being born a princess, and then later on becoming the heir apparent until finally succeeding the throne. Achieved status, a social position a person takes on voluntarily that reflects personal ability and effort. For example, being an honor student or a dean's lister, a very good athlete, a nurse, a medical doctor, an educator, and many others. Roles refer to behavior expected of someone who holds a particular status. For example, if you have an ascribed status of being a princess, then you have specific roles, duties and responsibilities incorporated to that status. Another example is being an educator. If you are a teacher, then you have roles and obligations to your, first and foremost, students. Then to your employers, to the institution you are connected with, and the society as a whole. Concept of socialization. The following concepts are socialism theories by some famous researchers, focusing on how the self, as product of socialization, is formed. Freud's model of personality. Sigmund Freud, a renowned neurologist and the founder of psychoanalysis, developed a model of personality. His model is a tripartite theory of the human personality which he stated includes id, ego, and superego. Id is the primitive and instinctive part of our psyche. It represents humans' basic drives, biological and physiological needs or basic instincts. For example, the need to eat when we feel hungry. Or, the need for affection and company. Or, the need to relieve one's self in the loo when nature calls, and others. Superego refers to the cultural values and norms internalized by an individual. This contains the conscience and the ideal self. And lastly, ego is the person's conscious efforts to balance innate pleasure-seeking drives with the demands and expectations of society. It is ideal to have the ego control the id and the superego, since it will be complicated if a person lets his id take control, or he is going to be too moralistic if he let the superego take control. Piaget's theory of cognitive development. Jean Piaget identified 4 stages of cognitive development. First, the sensory-motor stage. This starts from birth up to 2 years old. An individual knows the world mainly through the 5 senses. A child usually learns through basic actions such as looking, listening, smelling, sucking or grasping. The child's experience of his environment occurs through basic reflexes, senses, and motor responses. Pre-operational. From 2 years old to 7 years old. Individuals use language, symbols and pictures to represent something. The child becomes better at play but is egocentric and finds a hard time looking at things from other people's perspective. Concrete operational. From 7 years old to 11 years old. Individuals begin to form causal connections and think logically about concrete things. The egocentrism of the previous gradually disappears and the child learns how to see things from other people's point of view. This teaches the child that his feelings may differ from other people in various situations. The 4th stage is formal operational. From 12 years and above. Individuals think more abstractly and critically, and reasons about hypothetical problems more. An individual now logically analyzes abstract ideas and is capable of looking at a situation from different angles. George Herbert Mead's theory of the social self. Mead stated in this theory that the self is a part of our personality and it includes self-awareness and self-image. The self is a product of social experience and is not guided by biological drives as indicated in Freud's theory, or biological maturation as stated in Piaget's theory. The key point in this theory are how individuals take on roles. For example, as an infant, they simply imitate, without understanding underlying intentions, and have no self. This is why the parents should be careful on what they show the infant, since he or she will just follow suit to these practices and habits. As a child grows into a toddler, the self emerges in the form of play. Play is taking in different roles on how we interact with others. For example, a toddler may act differently to his parents and to his playmates. From simple play, the child moves on to complex games involving other individuals. He or she can take on several roles at once. For example, a high school student may act differently towards his parents, circle of friends, mere acquaintances and crush. The final stage is when an individual is able to not only take on a specific role in a specific situation, but of many others in various situations. For example, as an adult, you will act accordingly depending on the situation and the individuals involved within a situation. But, you also take into account how other people might react to this situation, and take on that role if you see it fitting for this situation. The generalized other refers to the widespread cultural norms and values we use as references in evaluating ourselves. Charles Horton Cooley's Looking Glass Self theory in 1902. Looking glass self is a self-image based on how we think others see us. What we think of ourselves depends on how we think others see us. When we meet other people, we look at them as mirrors reflecting what they think of us, thus, looking glass self. An individual shapes himself based on other people's perception of him, which reinforces the perception of other people of himself. For example, if a child does well in drawing and other people sees him as a genius or prodigy in that area, he will be motivated to even better his skills in drawing. This part of ourselves have a positive effect, but it could also have a negative effect. For example, if a person believes people who are against him or hates him, then he might see himself the way those people see him and will lead him to believe that he is bad, wrong or dislikable in some way. Agents of socialization. These are some of the agents that creates an avenue for socialization. The family. They are the first individual we interact with as a newborn baby. Immediate family members such as the mother, father, siblings, grandparents, cousins, aunts, uncles, and other members of the extended family becomes part of our earliest socialization experience. A child learns what he or she needs to know from the family. For example, how to use objects such as eating utensils, reading books, riding a bicycle, devices found in the bathroom, objects inside the bedroom and others. They also teach us how to relate to others, such as respect for the elders and being kind to siblings, and how the world works, such as differentiating real and imagined things. Many social factors affect the way a family raises a child. Culture and religion greatly affects the child rearing of the parents. For example, in a Christian family, the parents will of course instill the practices of the religion to the child. In a Muslim family, however, things such as the Tawheed, praying 5 times a day, using the right hand in eating and drinking, spreading salam, and many others will be taught to the child. Other factors are social class, race, religion, economic status, community, and many other societal factors play an important role within the family. For example, poor families value obedience, conformity and practicality, while wealthy families encourages creativity, judgment and ambitions. Gender norms, perceptions of race, and class-related behavior are also taught to the child. Peer groups. Your peers are usually the individuals within the same age bracket and social status who shares the same interests as you. As a child, peer groups can be seen in who the child plays within the playground. As the child grows into an adolescent, peer groups play a vital role in developing one's own identity. Peer groups define the socialization and interaction of an individual independent and outside the world of his or her immediate family. Schools. The basic purpose of the school is to transfer knowledge onto the students. Aside from the curricula and transfer of knowledge, children also learn social skills through interactions within the school. Children also learn the importance of following rules, obeying authorities, avoid breaking of the school policies and other essential behavior expected from a student, such as active participation during class, waiting in line and staying orderly in the cafeteria, maintaining cleanliness and orderliness within the school compound, and to listen and be quiet during class discussions. Mass media. Media corporations spreads news and a wide variety of information to a plethora of media. Media greatly influences social norms. For example, due to the widespread of automobile commercials that shows how a family seems to be happier and live better when they have a car, a lot of families have made it a goal to own at least one car. People learn about objects of material cultures such as new technology and transportation, as well as non-material culture, such as different beliefs pertaining to what is the truth, or different values deemed important to various groups, and norms and behavior of a person that is expected in a certain situation or setting. Other agents of socialization are religion, government, workplace, club or organizations, fraternity, sorority and other brotherhood or sisterhood organizations, and other institutions that promulgate socialization among people. Consequence of socialization, or results and outcomes of socialization. This refers to the way a person thinks and behaves after undergoing this process. For example, a child will become behave and attentive in class after being taught to listen and to actively participate during class discussions. Or, an employee follows the prescribed dress code of a workplace after being oriented of the rules and regulations of that workplace. The outcome and results can be seen in just about everything we do in our everyday lives. There is not one way of describing these results since we continue to socialize every day, throughout our lives. The outcome may be described from different trends and accumulated behavior and norms acceptable to the society in general. As a final thought, socialization is important since it upholds and preserves the norms, values and customs in our society. Socialization occurs all throughout the duration of our lives and even to an unborn child. There are different theories on how individuals interact to one another. There are agents that promulgate socialization such as the family, school, peer groups, and others. The results and outcomes of socialization can be seen in our behavior, expectations from our fellowmen, manners in public places, and even the fact that we walk on our legs, back straight as a result of socialization. Thank you for watching. In the next lesson, we will talk about forms and functions of social organization. See you there.